Welcome to the Introduction to Literary Criticism video series. This video is designed to give you a basic overview of the literary criticism contest, beginning first with the bigger ideas that give the contest meaning and shape, and continuing into the specifics of what the contest entails. I've coached this contest for a long time, and I've come a long way from when I first started and knew almost nothing about how to lead my students to success in the event. Since then, I've gained so much from working with my teams as we've studied the vast array of literary terms and concepts and literary history, as well as the experiences we've had encountering new authors and their works each year. Coaching literary criticism continues to be such a joy for me and such a deeply meaningful experience for my students and me as well. I hope that will be the case for you. I hope you will find that to be true as you continue to work with your teams. In this video, we'll first discuss a few questions regarding the meaning of criticism, what it is that we need to know to become good critics, and why this really matters. We'll then finish by taking a short look at the details of the contest itself. So what is criticism anyway? We kind of need to clear up a common misconception that I hear a lot when people ask me about my event. What we're referring to here has little to do with the negative ideas and connotations that we associate with the word criticism. We're not simply training ourselves to pick apart works of literature and point out their flaws. But even if we were, we would need to be qualified to do so first anyway. Instead, if we're aiming to become well equipped with knowledge concerning the development of literature throughout history, we have to learn the skills that writers employ in the creation of lasting art. What is the end goal? Well, we want to become more thoughtful, more critical readers who are better qualified to understand and evaluate works of literary art. But this is really just to enable us to participate more fully in the great conversation in which the works of the ever-growing body of Western literature, that is specifically American and British primarily, participate. The conversation about big human ideas like truth and goodness, beauty and liberty, equality, justice, you name it. The chief concerns of the human race since the beginning that continue to be important to us today. What do we need to learn to do this well? Well, we need to know all sorts of terms. The vocabulary, for example, that critics have helped create to help name the concepts, techniques, philosophies, paradigms, etc., that these kinds of critical readers have observed at work in the lasting works of Western literature. We also acquaint ourselves with the works themselves and with the authors who created them. We learn the historical influences that affect these writers and contributed to the creation of the poems, plays, novels, and essays we have continued to read and study over time. Learning these terms and understanding these developments, that's how we become better critical readers. Now, why does this really matter? Well, we all know that critical skills are important in all aspects of our lives, whether we're engaging in a time test in school or parsing the truth from propaganda in the media, or just trying to decide what cereal to buy at the grocery store. But it's true, too, that a good critic can help readers better appreciate a piece of art by helping them to see more fully the complexity, the layers and textures of a work, its themes and big ideas that we might otherwise fail to see on first experience. They can also help us identify innovations those writers are making in the process of telling their stories or composing their poems. More practically speaking, we also offer a college-level literature experience to our students. A student who participates in this for multiple seasons will gain the experience similar to what 4 courses of literature at the college level would offer, especially something like English and American Lit 1 and 2. In fact, they might even gain more than that, given that each season affords something similar to a seminar course in 3 new authors each year. Not to mention just the sheer breadth of the contest exposing students to a broader range of terminology than what a typical college semester might allow. Now, what's on the test itself? Well, the Literary Criticism Contest is a 4-part, 90-minute test. The first 3 parts making up a 65-question multiple-choice exam, followed by a tie-breaking essay in part 4. In the multiple choice section, the first 30 questions count for 1 point each, and the remaining 35 in parts 2 and 3 each count for 2 points, for a total possible score of up to 100. In the remaining videos of this series, we'll actually go through each one of these parts separately, kind of break down what they are and talk about some tips for how best to prepare. One key document that you'll need to access on the UIL Literary Criticism website is the annual reading list that you see here. You can find a link to this on the right-hand margin of the site, along with a number of other helpful documents. The first thing you'll need to access is the handbook. On the left here, you'll find the ISBN information for the 12th edition of the Handbook to Literature, edited by William Harmon. You'll need to have at least one copy of this book for your team, as this is where you'll find the definitions and descriptors for all the questions in part 1, and for many of those in parts 2 and 3. Next, you'll need the information for each of the 3 selections for this year's reading list. These books change every season, and it's recommended that each participant receives a copy that they can read and annotate throughout the year. Notice that in each case, you're given a specific ISBN, but the director will also let you know if other editions are acceptable as well. Note too that for poetry, you actually get a list of those specific poems to study. These are the only poems that will show up in part 2 of the test, but you can also count on seeing other works by that poet in the tie-breaking essay portion of the test, especially at the lower levels of the contest. Finally, at the bottom of this page, this is intended to help you focus your study for the lists of Pulitzer and Nobel Prize-winning authors. You'll see 2 sections of this bottom little chart. On the left side are the Pulitzer for fiction, poetry, and drama, and on the right, you'll see a list for the Nobel Prize. The left column shows you the various levels of the contest, ranging from Invitational A up to state. To the right of each test name, you're given a range of years from which the questions will be chosen. For example, next to Invitational A, you'll see that students will need to know the winners from the beginnings of each list through around 1940. The only difference is, if you look to the right column, the Nobel Prize list shows you that students are responsible for the entire list on all tests, regardless of level. Some final thoughts. It's easy to look at the size of this handbook and every item that could possibly show up on the test, the vast majority of which completely unfamiliar to us, and feel overwhelmed. But don't worry. Take your time. Find strategies to help you focus and narrow down your study. When you do study, study incrementally and consistently. You can't cram. And just work hard. But don't forget to allow yourself to enjoy this opportunity to experience the deep pleasure of literature with your team. Before we go, just one more thing. I'd like to share a quote from a passage I stumbled upon years ago in a textbook from the 1960s, one that stopped me in my tracks for just how perfectly it summed up what we are about in the study of literature. It said, "Reading good literature is both a source of enjoyment and a means of enlarging our experience, extending our sympathies, and deepening our understanding." It goes on to say that though we read imaginative literature for enjoyment, we also read it to make ourselves more fully human. More human here meaning more humane, more fully developed as human beings, more open-minded and conversant with the world at large as it continues to wrestle with those big questions. Every year, my students and I encounter works from this reading list, and they serve as sort of mirrors for me. They reveal powerful things to each of us about our world and, more importantly, about ourselves. These are truths that confront us personally and offer us the chance to grow or change. I'd like to believe that this serves as the foundation for what we're about as teachers of literature and coaches of the UIL Literary Criticism Contest. Best wishes to everyone as you participate in LitCrit this year. I hope you have a great experience and I hope to see you soon at State.